Is anybody out there? Hi, welcome to Ask Jackie Gordon, the public speaker answer lady. Speaking answer lady, I can speak. I know I ended my last show with coughing my guts out, but hopefully today I'll be able to keep it together and you can ask me anything you want to ask about public speaking, anything that you're struggling with, anything that you've always wanted to know. Maybe you have an example of something that you've been working on that you want to test, talk to me about. Well, you can talk to me by adding your questions in the chat. This is the second time I'm doing this live stream, so hopefully it'll be a bit tighter than last time, but I got to tell you, I watched the live stream last week and it made me laugh, so I thought I would give out some valuable information. So what I would love to know is if anyone is out there. And if you are out there, you can either use, depending upon where you are coming from, because we have this going over LinkedIn, we have it going over Facebook, X, or as we like to call it, Twix. And we also have it going over, what's the fourth one? I don't remember. Some other social media platform that I do not recall right now. Those are the big players. Oh, YouTube. Oh, someone's saying hi, Jackie. I see ya. Wow, that's weird. I can see, oh, it's Rochelle. Hello, Rochelle Lister. How are you? I can't hear anyone and I can't see anyone. So if you are, I like the fact that Rochelle, I can actually see your name this week because last week all I could see was LinkedIn listener. Oh, LinkedIn, what did it say? LinkedIn person or something. LinkedIn user. That's what it said last week. LinkedIn user. And I was like, ah. So if you put up a comment or you have a question, you may want to put your name in it to be like, hi, it's so-and-so, in case it's Miriam Rubin, I can see your name. So people who are coming in through Facebook, who are friends of mine, I can actually see your name. This is going out to public on Facebook this week. I've learned so many new things this week. And so it's going out live. It's going out live to the public. So there may be other people getting on. I don't know. I'm building the plane while it's in the air. What do I know? Now it's interesting. I have this thing. Oh, there it is. Oh, that's weird. Okay. So in Restream, you have something called a chat overlay. So I can see but it was looking weird, like it was blurred out, but now I can see it. Hello. So I did a little tweaking with my background. I put in a little bit of a background from last week. So last week I learned there's a thing called an overlay that you can create when you're doing streaming. If we were gamers, and maybe some of you are, you want to personalize the view of your video. So you make something called an overlay. And I did a couple of tutorials on how to build an overlay, but as it turned out, I didn't really need to. I think it looks pretty good. I want to know what you think. Does this look okay? The stream, I think it looks kind of cool with this. I don't know if you can see my mouse going over this. I'm just touching it. Oh, there goes the chat. Went away again. The chat went away. Uh-oh. Come back, little Sheba. So yeah, I think it looks pretty good. I can probably make it fancier when I have more. Oh, it's backwards? What's backwards? What's backwards? Are the words backwards? Weird. Oops. Oh yeah, I like the background, right? I found that I'm using Adobe Express these days, and that was one of the backgrounds. What's backwards, Miriam? Am I backwards? Am I upside down? Oh, you mean the things in my background were backwards? Yeah, I can't do anything about that. I can't do it. I don't know. Maybe one day I'll learn. Maybe that'll be next week's learning experience where I'll figure out why the posters are backwards. I guess because it's coming from the camera, and then, I don't know. All I know is I'm here. This is week number 2. I did not make myself crazy stressing out about this show this week. I just said, you know what? I am going to just chill. I'm going to learn this a little bit at a time, get my sea legs. Yeah, it's a mirror. Because the camera is in front of me. I'm maybe looking like I'm talking to you, but I'm actually talking to the camera, which is right there in the middle of my screen with my plexiglass toy. So that's why it's reflecting in the background. I don't know if there's a way to mirror it. Maybe there is. I could check in the settings. Let's see. I can't really see the settings, so that's fun. Video, let's see, mirror camera. What's this? What happens here? No, that didn't work. That just made it. Oh, wait a minute. Did that make it better? Answering. Did that make it better? Oh look, Miriam, you caused a change. Change. It's a little bit weird for me because now I'm looking at it differently. But yeah, hey, that worked. It's not backwards. Today I learned. Don't you love that? Doesn't everybody love that? Every day is such an opportunity for learning. Yay! Well, it isn't always wonderful, is it? It's just like one day, every day you're like, oh, another thing I had to learn today, another tutorial I have to do, another little widget I have to figure out how it works. So, but that was easy. I just went mirror. So I'm going to write a little note for myself now that says mirror the camera, because what I suggest people do whenever they're doing something like this is you make a list of all the things that you have to do in order to make the show go live. And oh, yay. I'm so happy that it's raining by you, Miriam. Yay. It's raining in the Hudson Valley, folks. So it's not raining here yet, but it may come. So anyway, you make a standard operating procedure. I worked with this guy, Matt Giovanisi, and he sets up standard operating procedures for everything he does so that he doesn't ever have to think. So that's what I'm doing here. Every week, I'm going to find out something new and add it to my standard operating procedure. And then one day I'll be done and I'll know exactly what I'm doing. So I've got to see my little ticker. I love the little ticker on the screen. Where are you joining us from? Where is everybody? I know where most of you are from, but I don't know if you guys can't see each other's comments. I'm not sure what's happening there. Maybe one day I'll have it working better. This is going straight through the Restream app, so it's not going through Zoom or a second party app. I don't know if that's good, bad, or what, but this is how we're doing it for now. I figured it's going to be easier for me to keep. Oh, you can see the comments. Excellent. Yay! Good. I don't have to tell you what the comments say. Last week I could click over them and then it showed up on the screen. See, I could be like that. But see, I love the King Charles. My friend Billy is here from Australia. G'day, mate. My Australian accent continues to be terrible, but I'm glad you guys can all see. I'm going to take that off, Billy. I'm going to hide that. I'm going to hide it. And now we're going to bring it back to, now what happened to my other thingy that said who I was. Okay, that's me. Show. Ta-da! It's like magic. So let's talk about public speaking, folks. I do have the idea of the show was obviously, like I said last week, was inspired by a woman that was sitting in Washington Square Park with a sign that said, "Answer Lady." I don't know how many years ago I saw her, but I thought, ooh, I want to be the answer lady. So when I was thinking about how to promote my new Speak Up, Get Paid platform, I thought, oh, I could just sit on the internet and answer questions. So this is what I'm doing. So if anybody has any questions, you had a question last week, and this is the answer. Hit show. It's the lipstick color. Some people wanted to know what the color of my lipstick was, and I love the fact that it's called Vendetta. It's so perfect. Yes, it's called Speak Up, Get Paid. What's getting paid? Whoop. What's the get paid? Wow. Yes, get paid is wow. Don't we all think that? Getting paid is wow. Oops, I just lost it. Ooh, that's so funny. It's a little funny. It's a little weird to run this myself. When I'm doing like a bigger webinar, I usually have a producer, but since this is only starting off small, well, now I can't see it again. I don't have a producer. I'm just doing it myself until it gets too big for me to handle. So yes. Oops, sorry. Doop, 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 doop. All right. So I'm not going to touch my mouse because every time I touch the mouse, it seems to do something weird. So I have a loose theme for today. I do have a loose theme because last week I thought, what happens if you get there and there's nobody there but you? What are you going to talk about for an hour? Ooh, is it only just 6 o'clock? Oh no, 10 minutes. We're in 10 minutes in. I have a little clock here in the corner of the screen that tells me how long I've been talking. But last week I thought, well, if there's nobody's coming, I better have something to say that might be of interest and value to people. So that last week we talked about, what did we talk about? Oh, you guys, who was here? Who was here last week? We talked about how to grab your audience's attention. How to grab your audience by the attention, And so I talked about that for a while, and people peppered in questions, so that was good. Today, the loose theme is how to make your words sticky. Now, sticky is not a word like moist that people get offended by, right? Sticky's good. And sticky's really good when you're talking about public speaking, because as a speaker or as a content creator, you want your words to stick in the minds of the people that you're talking to. You don't want them to walk away and think, what was that speaker talking about? So you want to choose words that are going to stick in the minds of your audience or your listeners. This speak up, when I talk about speaking, it's either speaking live in front of an audience or speaking from your recorded content that you might make for your videos or your reels, or speaking as in front of an audience for a demo. I know a lot of my people in my audience are food people, so they talk while they're preparing food, which is wonderful, but food is kind of cheating, isn't it? Because everyone's interested in food, so you can just be like, I'm just going to wave some butter in front of your face and you're going to be mesmerized, and it will be sticky, especially if you're making sticky buns, right? A little food joke there. So, but when you're presenting, whether you're online or you're actually in the room, you have this opportunity because your audience is giving you their attention. So you don't want to waste that. Eating, not cheating, nope. But you don't want to waste their attention, and you want whatever your message is to stick in their mind. So you have to make sure that what you say is going to be valuable to them, and you're going to say it in a way that's going to make it memorable. So they're not going to walk away and think, what did she say? Because the truth is, for people who are in the public standing in front of an audience speaking game, it's not a video. We can't go and rewatch it. We have an opportunity to influence, make an impression. We want people to do something, but they're only going to walk away with just like what I call the pearl of what you're saying. Someone's in the house. There may be a little noise in the background, folks. Bear with me. There are people amongst here who may not remember that I'm doing this. So, these are little wobbles that we might have. So you want your words to stick in their minds. There's only going to be one thing that they're really going to walk away with, and you build that's your message. That's the heart of your message. It's the pearl. It's the kernel of wisdom. It's the thing that you want them to know that's going to help them solve their problems or be entertaining for them, whatever it is that you want from your audience. That's the thing that you build your entire presentation around. And that's the thing that you use your sticky words and your storytelling and your images and whatever else you put around in your presentation is to deliver that pearl for your audience that you want them to walk away with and do the thing that you put in your call to action. When I was talking about this last week, I talked about how no one gets up in front of an audience and wants nothing from them. Everybody has something that they want from the audience. That's the reason they're getting up to speak. Even a person who's standing on a soapbox in Times Square wants something. Even someone who's pretty much talking to themselves on the street, they want something. You either want sales or you want influence. I have thought about very deeply about whether or not there's anything else you could possibly want, but everything comes down to sales or influence. So the thing this pearl that you're creating for your audience you want it to have some sort of result. So you want it to lead to influence or sales. So does anybody have any questions for me about public speaking? Because I'm just going to keep on talking about sticky words. Oh, Eleanor Coelho, how lovely to see you in my audience. And if you're going to respond to something that I'm saying, I see yeses, but I'm not sure what you're saying yes to. But thank you. Thank you for being for interacting and being part of this experiment in the answer lady. So if anybody has any questions, as it says on the screen, you can put them in the chat, and I will be looking at the chat as I talk about sticky words and how to make your words sticky, or how to find the words. So anyway, so you want to have words that stick in your mind of the people. And what I love that Rochelle Listener's in the audience today, because she's one of my favorite speakers from my Toastmasters Club, and she always seems to start with storytelling. She tells great stories, and stories are ways to get your words to stick in the minds of your audience. One of the things that I posted on LinkedIn every day this week, kids, I get a gold star because are there specific words that stick? Well, specificity in your words is what sticks. So if you're telling a story and you're like, I went down to the store and I bought some milk. It's not a very interesting story, but you could add some specificity to that story, and it might have a little bit more weight. It might have a little more stickiness. So you could say, it was Thursday. I went to the refrigerator. Oh my God, who drank the last of my milk? Damn it. So you're adding emotion. There I'm adding emotion because that's another way to get your words to stick. And you could continue and say, so I went to go get my keys, and then I couldn't find my keys, and I knew I had to get milk because how was I going to have my cereal without any milk? So now I'm making a drama out of this story that before was just, I went down to the store and got some milk. So that's just a quick example of how you can add some just more information. You're going to add the who, what, why, where, when to your story and flesh it out. So I'm having a picture in my mind about what you're saying. Me just going to the store to buy milk, yeah. But I go in the refrigerator, the milk, somebody drank my milk. Now I can't find my keys. I'm getting pissed off because I don't really want to be going to the store. Maybe I have something to do that's more important than going to the store and getting milk, like being here. Like if I was making cereal before I came on my live stream, I'd be like, ah. So now what happens when an audience hears a story, when you're adding more specificity to what you're saying, is they start to paint a picture in their minds. So they see themselves in your story. That's what happens when people hear stories. They run them through all of their experiences, and then they put themselves in your story, or it paints a picture. They go, they were like, oh, that's happened to me. I've gone to the refrigerator and there hasn't been any milk. And I'm like, who drank the last of the milk? And they have the same visceral experience of yours as you do. So that makes your words sticky because you're giving them more meat on the sandwich. I use a lot of food references, but you're getting more meat on your sandwich. And so they're getting something that they can walk away with. Now that is not a pearl. That's not a pearl. What I meant by a pearl, when you're getting up to speak or you're delivering a video, there's actually, if you're a content creator around whatever your niche is, you're going to have something much more specific that you want them to walk away with. So today I posted a video that my mother sent me about a guy who won the Toastmasters World Championship of Public Speaking in 2015. And he had a great open. Last week, I talked about how to grab your audience's attention. And he had an open where he was introduced by the whoever was emceeing the show. And he got up and he started to light a cigarette. And the audience gasped. They were like, and he was like, what? And then they started laughing. So he used shock and humor to grab his audience's attention. And then he started talking about the fact that he made up some story about diabetes and cigarette smoking, diabetes being worse than cigarette smoking, but he started to paint this picture. And then he started weaving in storytelling about his son and how words, his whole speech was about how words have power, which I thought was kind of cool because this is what I'm talking about today. Your words have power. So you want to make sure, in addition to adding specificity, clarification is also a food reference. Yes, Billy. Yes, I'm going to clarify the soup of my knowledge with you today. So yes, so now I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about? I don't remember. I was going to start talking about something else. So that's just one of the ways. So specificity is when you add a lot of detail to your storytelling, or enough detail, depending on how much time you have, so that you're creating imagery, you're creating a picture for your audience that they can put themselves in and follow along the journey of your speaking. Next up, as Rochelle said, vocal variety works. That's how if I were talking completely like this and I was very monotone and boring, you might, click off, you might fall asleep, you might look at your phone, you're probably going to be bored, because without vocal variety, your words fall kind of flat. And you could be saying something extremely interesting, but if you don't change the pace of your voice, the rhythm of your voice, the speed of your voice, everything that you got to make your voice live. You want to get louder, softer, you want to whisper. Whispering's great. So any way that you can take the words that you've written that are your message and shape them by using vocal variety is also going to make your words sticky. If I start yelling at you, you're going to pay attention. If I slow down and pause, that's something that's going to break up the delivery of the words. Also, pausing helps them absorb your message. So that's kind of cool. I love the questions. So vocal variety works in many different ways. I do it automatically. I don't know how to not use vocal variety. Also, the staccato of your voice, which is what I was just doing. I was talking in a very staccato kind of way, like a rhythm, like a pacing of a machine. There's loudness and softness. There's pacing. So if you say everything at the same, even if it's not monotone, if you say it all the same way, it can also get kind of lulling for your audience. So you want to make sure you speed up sometimes and slow down. That's another way. You can actually comment in about, if I'm missing something, Rochelle, please add in something more about vocal variety, and I can certainly talk about it. I don't keep all of this information in my head, but yes, so changing up the way that you deliver your words is going to help keep your audience engaged and make your words more sticky. The other things that you can use in addition to vocal variety are literary devices. So you have things like alliteration. I love to use great words. So there's a lot of places where you can find great words and also literary devices to deliver those words. So I like to use alliteration, which is where you have 3 words in a row that have the same beginning letter. So I might say sticky, soft, shrimp. Yes, thank you, Rochelle. Sure. Thank you for coming, Miriam. Nice to see you, and I'll see you soon in real life. So you can I like using alliteration because the repetition of the vowels of the consonant at the beginning of the word actually help people remember, or it makes it fun. It adds some fun and some light into the words that you're using. I have a whole list of other literary devices. I'm going to pull it up. I did pull it up and then it disappeared. So that's the fun. That's the fun of the internet. The fun times with the internet. I have a whole list somewhere in this computer. Alliteration. I have like a giant, like 3 screens. Say goodbye to dry. So using the best. Another way to use in terms of making your words is not using jargon. Keep your words simple and easy to understand. You want to be able, they say you want to be able to talk to a 4th grader or something, but you want to be clear with your words, but you also don't want to say things that only you or that it's like a club of people can use these words. I think jargon for me gets really sad, really sorrowful, and sounds preachy. So I try to never use it. There's a lot of people, also really big words. There was a great thing that I learned called baffle gab, which was created by this guy named Milton Smith, and he talks about people who use words that just to confuse the audience. You're usually, or as we talk all the time when you're speaking, you want something from your audience. So you do not want to use words that are going to confuse them or confound them or make them have to go to the dictionary in order to understand what you're talking about. So simplicity and clarity is really important to make your words sticky. You don't want to stump the audience unless they're an audience of maybe English literature experts, and stumping them is something that is a game that you're playing with them. Then that could work, but I wouldn't suggest that you use words that are going to make them confused and run to the dictionary. I love so you have metaphors. The other thing is another one of the literary devices that's great is called assonance. It's when you repeat the vowel sounds with repeating consonants in a sentence, like rise high like a bright, like rise high in the bright sky, or those lazy, hazy, crazy days of summer. That's another way that you can make your words get more sticky. There's a sort of a rhythm. I love that sort of, I love that I do that as well. I wrote a speech called Battle Cry, where I talked about how I was paddling on a boat of determination on a river of my own tears, upstream against the tide of my own fears for years, but I'm here. So that's an example of assonance. I didn't even know that word when I started working on my new course that's coming up. I did never heard of the word assonance. I used it, but I didn't actually know what it was. So that's where it is, where you're using that repetition of the vowel sounds within a sentence. Good night, sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite is another example of assonance. Tongue twisters is another way to make things sticky, because they are definitely tricky. See what I did there? Sticky and tricky, a little bit of assonance in there. So they're she sells seashells by the seashore. This is also another side tip on this tongue twisters, is they are great for practicing public speaking. They're great mouth exercisers. So whether you're saying she sells seashells by the seashore, or Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, when you're doing tongue twisters, you actually are wind up stretching your mouth out, and that makes it easier for you to speak clearly. You get better diction when you are using your entire mouth to speak. That looks pretty, doesn't it? That Vendetta lipstick is going very nicely with this, with my face making these faces. So tongue twisters are great. Analogies are things that stick in people's minds when it comes to making words that are sticky. Like a bikini is like a barbed wire fence is not something you're going to forget soon. So using analogies is another way to make words that people are going to remember, because it's fun. Because analogies are things that are when you're comparing two things that are kind of not connected, but you're making them connect. They're like, oh, that's an interesting way of thinking about that. So that's cool. Another things are similes. Australians are great at similes, aren't they, Billy? Mad as a cut snake is an idea of simile. Strong as an ox, busy as a beaver, better than a poke in the eye with a sharp stick. These are great similes. Metaphor. Time is money. Life is like a roller coaster. Those are great ways. What are your, I would love for people to be more interactive, and I don't want to sit here talking because I could get very boring. I don't know if I'm seeing anybody say anything in this chat, but I'm here to answer any questions. So I'm going to turn off the lipstick one because that's a silly one. That was funny and then it ended. So let's end the lipstick and we will put up. Oh, who's saying happy Tuesday, y'all? The person who came in and chatted happy Tuesday, y'all, I don't know who you are, and I may not know you, but I may know you. And as useful as an ashtray on a motorcycle. Thank you, Bill, that was a good one. Australians are great at, what are they, similes? Similes. It's kind of hard to keep them all Oh, this is a cool thing that I discovered that I read and I copied. Oh, Paula. Hey, Paul. Hey, love, Paula. How are you? I can't see if there's something about the way we're connected. Oh, LinkedIn keeps people very mysterious. So there's some setting that you can change in order for me to see who you are. But you can also just say, hey, it's Paula. And Paula, I have a question for you that I will ask you later after this is over. So this was a cool thing that I saw, and I'm going to read it. It was how to understand the difference between similes, metaphors, and analogies. So, and they used Forrest Gump as the example. So a simile is the famous one. Life is like a box of chocolates. Metaphor, life is a box of chocolates. Or analogy, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get, which is the one that they use. But that's sort of paints a picture of the difference between a simile, a metaphor, and an analogy. An analogy. What else we got? What else do I have up my sleeve here? Ooh, another one that I tend to use a little bit, which you have to be careful. One of the things you have to be careful with your words is, depending upon your audience, whether your words are going to be offensive. You don't want to offend your audience, but I don't know who your audience is, and they may appreciate the fact that you are using a little bit of slang or profanity or a little bit of innuendo. I love innuendo. It's my favorite. I find that stuff works for my audience. Not so much the profanity. Although I do like, as I said last week, feigned profanity. I like, where I'm not actually cussing, but I might be like, or, sort of when I'm speaking, because when you're trying to reach your audience in an emotional way and you want things to stick, I tend to think that sexual innuendo or feigned cussing works. For me, it works. And when I'm writing my show, when I've written my shows, I write it in there and it works. It gets a laugh and it makes people lighten up, but it's not going to work for every audience. I don't know that the daughters of the American Revolution they're going to have a little bit of cussing at their gathering and their committee meetings. Oh, this question. Who's this question from? Is there such thing as too much preparation before presenting? Is there a tip to strike a balance between preparing to allow a good flow or not preparing enough? Well, you don't want to not prepare enough, because there is nothing like getting up on stage and I know that was from Paula. Paula's asking this question. You don't want to under prepare. I am never a fan of under preparing, because unless you super know what you're going to be talking about, like it's, and that wouldn't be under prepared, because then you are prepared. People who get up, you don't want to get up and start reading to your audience. Your eyes aren't there. There's no connection with the audience. That's going to be considered not cool as a speaker. But, some people do it. I would not suggest that. But I say that I'm like, you have to prepare enough for you. So some people are good with, for me personally, I memorize my entire speech. I like to know every little bit of it. I can ad lib depending upon the circumstances, but if I have to do a tight 5 to 7 minute speech at Toastmasters, and I'm one of these people who writes something that's more like 15 minutes, and then I've got to cut it down to 7 minutes. I know every little bit of that speech. I know everything. I can see it. If I close my eyes. I have memorized it, but I know how to deliver it like it doesn't sound like it's memorized, if that makes any sense. But there are other people who can just use cards, and they can go, ad lib off their cards and talk about their subject, deliver their message right off their cards without actually doing any memorization. I am completely doing this impromptu today. Can you tell? I don't have anything written down except for the color of the lipstick, and I can change these. What whatchamacallits. I could change my little captions, show that one instead. How do you make your words sticky? So I did prepare some captions, but for this sort of impromptu ask me anything, I don't really have a lot prepared. I have a few bits of notes. I've written an entire course on how to be an entertaining speaker. So I have a lot of content, but I don't have it memorized because that's not the drill here. If I were doing a keynote, then I would know what I would have that be super tight. I also think that it's really important to be prepared for one of the ways that I approach speech writing, which is taking your audience on what I call an emotional journey. So I want every word to be precise. I want every moment. I know how I want the audience to feel. As I said last week, as a speaker, as a person who makes videos, anybody who's creating content, you have an idea about how you want to make your audience feel, how you want to impact them. So when you get up, you're like a spark, you're like a catalyst. So you're going to have an open that grabs them in a certain way. You want to decide, what's the first feeling I want these people to have? The guy that I was talking about earlier, the speech that I was talking about that won the World Championship of Public Speaking, he knew what he wanted. He knew that he wanted to use shock and he wanted to use humor because that was how he's going to win the audience. Humor is a great way of holding your audience. So when it comes to preparation, I like to know what I think. I like to be premeditated, deliberate about how I want my audience to feel. So I write into my speech, laugh, sad, curious, confused, because there's a whole journey that you want them to be on. And so I prepare for the journey if I'm doing a prepared speech. But if I'm just answering questions or, doing something like this or taking questions from the audience, I don't prepare. I better know my subject, better know your subject. But I don't do any, serious memorization. But some people will thrive, right? Some people are going to thrive in a more impromptu. Some people need to feel safe by having their script memorized. But the thing that's important is your delivery. How do you want to feel when you're delivering? Do you want to look like you know what you're talking about, and you want to look like you don't want to be like, spear at the end of a gun? That's the how to feel. Is that you, Paula? Yeah, I definitely, that's you. It's so funny that we talk about how do you want to make your audience feel in terms of being a public speaker, but this is how we talk to each other. In all our conversations, we're causing an emotion in the people that we're speaking to, whether you're just, talking to the butcher, they're going to feel something, you're going to feel something. But when you're on stage, you have, whether you're on a Zoom like this and you've got a handful of people or you're standing in front of a room of 1,000 people, you want to be deliberate with how you want to make them feel because you're taking them on a journey that's going to deliver something to them so that you can get your sales or your influence of them. So it has to be intentional. It has to be deliberate because otherwise you're not going to seal the deal. I think was it last week? I gave a speech recently about this path that I have to how speakers get paid, and I call it it's a tongue twister. It's called the gets to the gift to the gets, and it's AKA how speakers get paid. What did I use there? I used alliteration. Get, gifts, gets. Get, gifts, gets. It's like a little machine gun. And my theory being that whenever you get up to speak to an audience, you have to know what you want to get from them. There's a reason that you're speaking. Like I said earlier, you have sales, you have influence, you want to get something. There's got to be something in it for you. You need to know what that something is in it for you, because that's going to define what you want to deliver, what you want, the gift. I like to call the delivery of your words as a gift to your audience, because for a couple of reasons. When I first started coaching speakers who were nervous about speaking, they kind of relaxed a little bit when they thought about, it's like a gift. My words are a gift because it is. You created this thing that you want to deliver to your audience, and it should be a gift. It should be as valuable as a gift to the people that you're talking to. So I love what is that, metaphor, simile? I don't know, calling it a gift. Your words are like a gift. I have to look back because I'm not smart when it comes to what the words actually mean, but you know what I mean. It's like a gift, like a box of chocolates. So, and then at the gets, the two, GETS, at the end are, what do you want your audience to do once they've heard you speak? And what do you want them to do for you once they've heard you speak? A lot of speakers don't think about that second get because they start with their first get. Yes, I'd like sales or influence over these people, and I'm going to deliver this content. Maybe I'm getting paid to speak, or maybe I'm doing a marketing speech and I want them to buy my book, or I want them to sign up for my mailing list or something. And then, but they don't ask for that last thing. They say, oh, it's a call to action. This is what I'd like you to do with my gift that I've given you. I want you to run with the gift and do this in your life to make the changes that you need to solve the problems that you have. But you also want to be like, hey, I want to get something else out of here, whether I'm getting paid or not. Wouldn't you like to be connected with me on my mailing list? Or I've got my books at the back of the room. Maybe you'd like to buy a copy of my book. So you've always want to have the get to the gifts to the gets. And you want to put that in your speech when you're practicing it so that you get everything that you can out of delivering your gift. Does that make sense? You can chime in the chat. Did that answer your question, Paula? So it really is personal about whether or not you practice, how you practice. Some people are like, never memorize your speech, never, ever, ever, ever. That's their advice, but it's not my advice because that's how I do it. I like to know. I like to be tight. I want it to be tight, but I don't want it to look tight. So that's another thing, and that's how you've got to practice delivering your speech in front of. I answered this question on LinkedIn the other day, whether you should practice, how do you practice giving a speech? Whether some people say you practice in front of a mirror, but I'm always like, I don't think that's a good idea. I mean, not that it's a bad idea. I prefer to be videotape myself and I never do that. That's a lie. I don't, but some people it works. I don't usually do videotapes. I walk the speech. I walk through my house speaking and speaking and running the speech because I'm always editing and I'm always like, pull out those words, Jackie. Don't fall in love with your words, Jackie. You can say it better this way, Jackie, until you get it polished. And then the best way to practice it is in front of a live audience, in front of an audience, because that's the only way I'm going to know whether it lands. When I was talking before about the emotional journey that you take your listener on, I can laugh in my speech and think that I was hilarious. However, I've done that and it's gone, wah, 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 wah. They don't laugh. But there have been other times when I was like, oh, it's so serious. And they laughed. So you never know until you're actually in front of an audience and you can see their faces. You can read the room, whether or not your speech is going to land. And the only way you know that is in the reactions and the feedback that you get from people who've actually heard it. So that's why I joined Toastmasters. Not that I'm doing an ad for Toastmasters here. I'm just saying that you need to find an audience. Ooh, I have a question about telling jokes. I got an answer. I got an answer for you about telling jokes. So Carolyn has a question about telling jokes. Not everyone can do it well. That's not sure. But how do you get the audience to laugh when you want to lighten them up, especially during a light up? So I do not tell jokes. Yes, I did. I know. I have to read your question in order to. I'm reading it in I see it on the screen, and I know that you guys can see it, but I got to read it and be like, make sure I got the right. Oh, there it is. So yes, I do not coach people to tell jokes because jokes are, in my opinion, a challenge to the audience. For instance, when someone says they're going to tell you a joke, or they're like, a frog, an ant, and a bee walked into a bar, there's a joke coming. people become instantly antagonistic because they go, at least, okay, maybe not people, but Jackie becomes instantly antagonistic because she's like, oh, you're going to make me laugh? Go ahead. So I don't respond well to jokes because I find that a lot of people aren't funny. So I don't think that it's a good idea unless you are a master joke teller. And there's some hilarious people out there and they do it really well. But if you're a speaker and you're going to try opening with a joke, that's risky to me. I would rather open with a story that has humor in it. I would rather say something funny as more of an observatory or as an observatory. I would like to, it's not what I meant to say, as an observation. So I would rather, I use humor when I'm writing my speeches, or I do storytelling as well. I use humor in the story. I find ways to add humor to something that will make people reflect, because it's a lot easier to tell a funny story than it is to tell a joke because of people being assholes like me. So tell the jokes at your own risk. So the other thing that Carolyn wrote about was lightening up. How do you lighten things, especially when you're talking about a dark subject? You add humor. So you could make not a joke, but you can make it a funny aside. You need to find ways to bring light into the darkness, especially if you're telling an emotional. There was in that same speech that I was talking about earlier, there was a point where the guy where he was talking about someone who died. I think he died. At least he was very sick. Oh, it was a guy whose father didn't love him. His father never told him that he was proud of him. He takes us from this funny story about his kid where the kid in the humor that he used was, he was like, my kid likes to draw on the walls. And sometimes and I told him not to. And he was like, and he didn't care, and he just kept on drawing. And then the next time after I told him not to, he did it again. And he wasn't even looking at what he was drawing. He was just doing it to spite me. So that's like telling a story that has a bit of light, it's got humor in it. It's a kid in a room. He's drawing on the walls with crayons. Ha, 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 ha. He's being a little jerk. That's amusing. It doesn't have to be, oh my God, laugh out loud, hilarious. It just needs to be light. But then he started telling a story about his friend whose father didn't love him or never told him that he was proud of him, even though this guy had done all this achieving, and he finally got all A's at college. And he said, Dad, are you proud of me? Are you proud of me? And it was very serious. And the father was like, yeah, I'll call you back, which could be seen as humor, but it was not funny when he delivered it that way. So don't laugh, because that's not funny. But he went on to say the guy started drinking, and then I think he died. Yeah. How much do I remember what he said? But I think in this story he was telling, because he was saying that words have power, and father not being proud was, a word that because this guy never got his father to say that he was proud of him. He never got the words that he wanted. The words would have made him, not turn into an alcoholic and die. So, but when you start telling stories, or you start telling people things in your speech that are kind of heavy and dark, and the world's coming to an end, political things that are climate change, you got to find a way to throw a little light in there, whether you're using a prop, you've got to make a joke about it, but not the same thing as like, an ant, a bee, and a frog walked into a bar. That's not, you need to find a way to find the light in a dark subject. I think I was talking about this. I did a speech called "What's Love Got to Do? What's Love Got to Do with?" No, Love is what's the song by the Beatles? All you need is love. All you need is love. How listening to the Beatles can change your life. And it was a very kind of dark-ish subject about how I believe that my father didn't love me. And I I had to make jokes in it because I had to bring some humor into it, because when I talked about the fact that my father made me sit in a chair and as like a little girl, and he kind of terrorized me because I was only like 5 years old, because he found me, I cut school or something. I don't even remember the circumstances. He said, sit in this chair and don't move. And I was so scared. And he left the building. He left the house, and I was alone, and I sat in that chair. The audience is like scared for me. They're scared for me. And I threw in some humor, because otherwise they would be staying in that dark place. And so I wanted to lift them up. I'm actually, because I'm not a genius when it comes to even remembering what I said. I'm looking to see if I have the speech. Oh, but I'm Googling it, so that's not going to help because that's not where it was, but it's in here somewhere. I have all the speeches I ever wrote in here. So let's see what it's called. All You Need Is Love. So there was some joke I made in it, and I don't remember what it was. All you need is love. Do I have the speech in here? Somewhere. How listening to the Beatles can change your life. I don't know. Oh, wait a minute. There it is. Beat. No, that's not it. Let me put love in the search and see if that changes everything for me. Well, I don't see it. No, I can't. No. You think it would come up really early on in here, but it did not. Oh, there it is. Oh, there it is. There it is. I found it. So it's opening. And so I think, let me just see. So I said something. I remember being so scared of him that I didn't move from that chair for hours. I said, luckily, he left, which was kind of a dark humor, because that's not that funny, but it got a laugh, and it lightened up the room when I was giving that speech. So yes, humor brings levity. Humor. What other ways can you? Humor is definitely one way to lighten up the darkness. You've got to save your audience, because you don't want to leave them in a dark place, especially if you want. But sometimes you have to take them to that dark place. That's another power move by, you can't get people to change. One of the things that you want for your audience is to persuade them to make a change. You kind of have to take them to the pain of staying where they are in order to be able to get them to change. So you've got to tell a story and that takes them to that place so they see themselves there. And then you're like, but you could change. And this is the opportunity. The transformation is what you're selling them. Essentially, if you're there to help them solve a problem. So you've got to work that transformation in there, but you got to take them to where they're feeling their own pain, because in order to be able to want to change, because that's how you influence people. That's how you persuade people. That's how you motivate them. So I think that having all that emotional range, what I call emotional mapping in your speech, and being deliberate about how you make them feel, gives you power. And being able to be a speaker, to deliver words that are the darker words, the darker feelings, the darker emotions, is powerful, because the people who play it safe, not that interesting. The people who can take you on a journey, it's like going for a ride, for a ride in the car, or going for a ride in the plane. You're going somewhere. There's a lot involved in it. So don't play it safe. But what I find for when I'm coaching speakers is that people don't want to feel their own emotions, much less deliver their emotions in front of a room full of people, a room full of strangers. But the powerful speakers are able to do that. So does anybody else have a question for me? Ooh. Yes. I'm going to put it. I'm going to go back and show this one. I like this little ticker. Is it annoying? What do you want to know about public speaking? What do you want to know about? So I'll go back to talking about sticky words, stickiness. Now, what did I do with that page, though? You wouldn't believe how many screens I have open how many windows I have open. Somebody screamed when I shared my screen with them the other day. They were like, what are you doing, Jack? What are you doing? So one of the things that I do to try and find humor is listening to humor. to try and find great words, great delivery. I love comedy. I watch comedians. I watch speeches, but I mostly watch comedians because comedians have a way of delivering bad news with humor. So that's another way that you can, another way to sharpen your sharp is a tongue twister. Sharpen your saw is by watching comedians. And actually, for some speakers who don't think that they're funny, I suggest that they actually deliver someone else's comedic monologues. Practice using somebody else's words to be funny, and you're going to find more of your own funny bone, like your own funny bone. They also, what's great is that they also do a lot of storytelling, little storytelling that helps to, lift their delivery of their whatever. They're there to entertain you, but they do a lot of storytelling. What else do I? There's sites online where you can actually read some of the greatest speeches ever given, which is another way to practice delivering your speeches, is to speak other speeches and listen to other people speak and figure, like this guy today. When I watch a speaker, when I'm always like evaluating speakers when I watch them, and I'm like, oh, this is what I loved about him, and that's what I loved about that. And you steal little things. There's pausing. It does not come natural to me, as you can tell by this, because it's very weird to sit in your quiet house with the cat. And there might be a cat around here somewhere. There's cats here. And talk to yourself. Because I can't hear you guys and I can't see your faces. So it's kind of a weird experience. So pausing does not come naturally to me under the best of circumstances. But here, if I pause, it's not very dramatic because there's no audience for me to like be dramatic or give them an up. But it is very powerful when you're speaking live, when you're speaking to an audience that you can actually see even on a stream, to use the power of pausing, because pausing gives your words get punched by the pause. Pausing gives you an opportunity for the audience to absorb what you're saying. Pausing gives you an opportunity to breathe. Because especially when speakers are nervous, they forget they actually can stop and breathe and think. So that time that you're taking your pause, you could actually think, what's the next thing I was supposed to say? Because the breathing helps to calm you as well. So it removes some of the panic, and you can actually think, oh, what was I going to say? If you have forgotten what you were going to say. So that's cool. Pausing that's a really good thing to practice, especially for me, but I'm not going to do it a lot now because nobody's in here. Now I need another question. Who has a question for me about, I don't even know what time. How long have I been talking? Oh my God. I have been talking for almost an hour. We are at 58 seconds and 58. Yes, I've been talking for 58 seconds. We are at 58 minutes and 16 seconds. I'm actually shocked in a way that this is kind of so easy for me to do this, but I hope it's been valuable for you guys. I hope I'm making some sort of sense. So Carolyn, you say I'm in silence. Yeah. Well, that's right. When you're doing that one-on-one helping people, they got to feel. The silence helps people feel as well. So Carolyn has a comment about being a psychoanalyst. And yeah, it's in that silence that words land, or they're thinking about the past or the future or how they feel. And it happens in that silence. That happens, I guess, especially, another way that the power of the pause is asking a question to your audience. We talked last week about how important it is to have audience participation, audience interaction when you're presenting, especially a really long program. I do workshops that are hours long. You've got to have interactivity, but you want to ask them questions. And it's funny, I've seen speakers speak and they ask a question and then they just start talking. And the audience needs the time to absorb the question and to think about their answer. Even if they're not verbalizing it, they think about it in their head. So that's what I got to say today. I mean, I didn't go into every little detail about how to make your words sticky, and I certainly hope that y'all got some value out of what I was saying today. It is an unusual experience to be sitting here talking to myself, even though I know you're out there. I don't know whether I did watch a webinar the other day or yesterday where I guess it was sort of the same thing, but it must be going through some sort of other program, not Zoom. And I don't know if she could actually see the people in Zoom. I have this idea that since I'm sending this out to the public, that it's better to keep it contained with me just being able to answer questions that people put in chat, because you never know who might show up if I could actually see them, and we might see things that we don't want to say, right? Oh, cool. I'm glad that you got some value, and I will be back next week. Yeah, I'm going to do this every week. It's going to evolve. I believe that I'm going to have guests, and I'm going to have more presentation things going on. I would love, I put up a slide. I have a slide. Don't leave. I am looking for anybody who wants to come on and be coached live I wrote this right before, so if it's not in English, don't blame me. I did it seconds before this live stream went up. But I am looking for speakers and content creators who do coach during the live stream. I'd love to coach people live. They would come on, and I would go through, maybe they would put up a presentation or maybe a part of a presentation, and we would tweak it and do a little polishing, a little delivery help. So yeah, so if that person is you know how to reach out to me. You're on my feed, one of my feeds on one of my platforms. So reach out and I would make it happen. So everybody, I'm going to go eat dinner now. It's 7:00 here in New York, wherever you are. Have a wonderful evening. And thank you for being a part of this live stream. Mwah! Bye.